So you would be hearing. So you would be hearing from some, esteemed industry speakers today. What I would recommend, as Karen was saying, it is important for you to participate in the event. So this is a career networking event. I have to say it is not a slideshow or a movie, and definitely not Netflix. So I would say you have to participate, because some of the people who are participating today are coming from companies or potential employers, recruiters, right? And they will be watching you. So any exposure, watching you in the sense, any exposure that you get would be better recognized when you go interviewing at the same company, right? So I would say turn your cams on, highly recommended, and then chime in with questions, comments, what have you, throughout the session so that you get noticed. That's very important, right? This is kind of like the informal, almost hiring type event. So with that said, I just wanted to kind of introduce you to our chapter. ASCM stands for Association for Supply Chain Management, and Massachusetts Minuteman chapter is the largest chapter in Massachusetts. So, and we are affiliated with the ASCM, which is a central body. It's a global organization that provides supply chain education and professional development. So we are chapter number 10. In fact, one of the oldest chapters of APICS, now rebranded as ASCM. So we provide premier supply chain education and professional development programs. Now, education is mostly, these are certification type programs that qualify you for industry jobs, right? So it's on top of the academic credentials that you receive from the university. These are more focused on supply chain. They give you a lot of practical knowledge and insights, which employers require from the students, from the employees. I would also recommend that you mute your mic if you're not participating. I think that will help the event overall. So, it is a membership-based organization. So we pay a membership fee, and there are many benefits in terms of the membership. You get a number of materials, a number of knowledge portals and educational materials, and also weekly, monthly newsletters of interest as well, and participation in conferences, that type of stuff. So we have 3 types of membership: professional membership, plus membership, and student membership. And I have to say that the student membership is free. So when you are a student, I think you may want to just go to ascm.org and apply for a national membership and choose the Massachusetts Minuteman as a chapter, or any of the chapters participating here today. Choose your local chapter to benefit from most of the local activities. So professional development programs, Ken Glasser is the director of professional development programs for the chapter. And he is going to talk more about the many programs that we'll be having in this year and next year. We have some very good speakers lined up in the rest of the year. So what happens in professional development programs is we meet monthly to discuss various topics of interest to chapter members. So, and most of these are staffed with subject matter experts who would either speak individually, or it could be a panel discussion. But these are, very insightful programs, and again, gives you opportunity to network. And because of the pandemic, we have gone virtual. Most of the meetings are on Zoom and essentially free to the members. So I would say membership has its benefits, invaluable benefits in the form of a number of knowledge-based events. And I will just not take too much time. I'll just talk a little bit about the education that we offer as a chapter. So we have classes that are twofold: corporate customized classes, which are customized to specific companies. And we provide them either on-site or virtual, but it's just for the group of members that belong to the same company. So we can customize it a bit and really intend it for specific topics of interest that are important to the company. We have many clients. In fact, classes are ongoing now for Thermo Fisher and New Balance. But these happen on a continuing basis. And then we have public classes that are open to individuals. Anybody can join. These are publicly offered. And most of these classes we have been offering since 2020 as virtual classes on Zoom. So open to anyone without geographic limitations. In fact, we have had people attend from the Midwest, from the South. In fact, we have students now from, I think from South Carolina. So there are no geographic limitations. And we have, excellent instructors who are certified and who are also certified as instructors in this. Conducted mostly on weekday evenings. And the type of classes that we have, right, there are 3 important certification courses offered by APICS. One is the CPIM, which is Certified in Planning and Inventory Management. And it's offered in 2 parts, CPIM 1 and CPIM 2. So currently we are, the classes for CPIM 1 is going on. These are 5 instructor touch points, which would be followed by the CPIM 2. And you have to take the certification examinations to be certified as a professional with CPIM. And these are offered twice a year. Then we have CSCP, which is a Certified Supply Chain Professional. You can think of this more as a master's program, right? The CPIM is actually for young professionals who are just starting out in the industry, especially if you have a bachelor's degree and you want to get certified, with the deeper knowledge of planning and inventory management. CPIM is the course for you. Now, the Certified Supply Chain Professional is an advanced program, and typically for people with CPIM or experience or with with already a graduate degree. So it's like an advanced master's level class. Also offered twice a year, one in the spring, the other one in the fall. So the next class will begin in the fall in September. And then we also have CLTD, which is Certified in Logistics, Transportation, and Distribution, right? So the chapter currently is offering CPIM and CSCP, but we can also offer the CLTD courses as well. So I would say, become a member of ASCM, and also check out our website, the ASCM Minuteman chapter website, to learn more about our programs and also about our classes. Now, APICS does offer the SCORE certification as well, but I wouldn't talk a lot about SCORE. But this is actually a very valuable reference model for advanced supply chain professionals, right? So again, I would say all of the materials and insights and knowledge bank is available on the ASCM corporate website if you're a member. So I welcome you to the event, and please do check us out at the ASCM Minuteman chapter. Thank you, Karen. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. If you can unshare your screen, please. Thank you. And now I will turn the meeting over to Ken Glasser. And we really appreciate that Mark covered a lot of education and research because our Emily Zhang ended up traveling this evening and could not be with us. Ken, if you have anything more to offer on education and research before you talk about programs, the floor is yours.
Hello. So welcome to everybody. Thank you for coming. A couple of things. So regarding educational, I believe, Mark, there's also a project management type course coming up around May, correct?
Right, exactly. I forgot to mention, I should have listed that. So we do have a PMP certification course coming up, project management professionals. You may have heard of the PMI Institute. So there is both the PMI offered certification program and also the SAFE offered certification program, which is on agile project management, right? You may have heard of agile project management. So that's also being offered. So that's under consideration at this point, but that'll be announced shortly on the website.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have a bunch of upcoming programs. So let me share screen. So the next one we have is March 16, Wednesday. John Janis, I'll let you speak to this one because you're getting Michelle Heath and talk about the 3 points you were mentioning earlier that you're going to be getting into in that session.
Well, it's a dual session. Michelle Heath is a daughter of, many people may know, Bob Hebert. He's a consultant that really paid it forward with APICS or ACM for the last, I shouldn't say the last 20 years, he's been retired, but for a good 20, 30 years when the organization was starting, Bob led the folks in understanding MRP. This was long before SAP and Oracle and companies like that were in place. So we're kind of paying tribute to Bob and his contributions to the region. And Michelle's going to cover some topics that I think very relevant to supply chain. A company like Toyota's been doing them for years, but it's going to cover, first of all, you don't need to always have the right answers. It's kind of a cultural thing here, but sometimes you go to a meeting and people demand that you have all the answers. Well, going out and finding information is just as important. And to do that, she's going to teach us on how to ask the right questions. So it's kind of like when you've heard the term walking the Gemba, it's kind of coaching people and helping them to go out on the floor and work with people, or go anywhere and work with people, and then be able to come back and improve your own personal skills. And I'll get you the write-up tomorrow.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So, and these are great. This, by the way, that's John Janis. He's the president of the ASCM Western Mass chapter, also a legend. And we do these all as joint meetings with ASCM Mass Minuteman, New Haven, Northern New England. Paul Moriarty is on the line. We'll talk to him in a sec. Western Mass and ASQ New Haven. So it's a lot of fun. So thank you on that one, John. And the next one is, this one was actually through ASQ New Haven Quality Group. It's called The Infinite Game by Ernie De Los Santos. And let me show you. This is what it's going to be about. So he's really an excellent coach and speaker. And I think you'll really like it. It's learning to play the infinite game, knowing the difference between the winner and winning, knowing the game you're playing, how to play, understand what the most successful companies, how they play the game to win, understand why and how you and your company need to play the game, and 4 rules for the infinite game. So it's going to be really good. So that one is coming up in April. In May, we have Niraj Shah, who's going to be doing a project management PDM. And as Mark had explained earlier, he's also a teacher of project management. So it's going to be really a nice session in case it might perk your interest in terms of, learning more about project management. Is pretty fun. And then in June, we have annual extravaganza at the Danvers Port Yacht Club, i.e. anyone's welcome. It'll be the installation of officers. It's very high end, heavily subsidized by the chapter. So definitely check that out. So these are, except for the last one, these are all joint programs with all the other chapters. And speaking of the other chapters, John Janis, do you have anything else from Western Mass you wanted to bring up? You muted?
2 things. I am working with Ollie White Group to kind of see if we could put on a series of individual, kind of similar to the PDM we did last month, but cover certain core topics that are really the basics, so that a person would be able to attend or see the virtual PDM and then talk to one of their professional consultants who's been in businesses all over the world, and be able to go back to work the next day with something valuable that makes yourself a little bit more valuable to work. And the second is we're going to send out an email, at least to our members, and if anybody here is interested, there's so many different places that you could learn, and it could be master scheduling or any supply chain related topic, and a lot of certification, or I should say opportunities for certification. But if you go on LinkedIn or YouTube or any of these places that we talked about project management, they do offer some courses that you could probably take in a very short period of time, and again, make yourself more valuable at work. But I don't know if anybody has any experience taking any of these, and I would appreciate some feedback, because we're going to try to find some of these that, in addition to folks having their certification, be able to go back and say, hey, here's something else I learned. But again, I want to find the ones that are worthwhile and not something that's just very simple and kind of not giving you good benefit for your time. So if anybody has any ideas, again, LinkedIn, YouTube videos, even some of these past PDMs, I appreciate it if you'd share that information, because like I said, I want to, again, help people learn.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, John.
And
And
gentlemen, in general, those meetings last, is it an hour and a half, 6 to 7:30?
the lunch ones,
No,
I
the
think,
PDMs.
oh, the PDMs are usually 6 to 7:30.
Usually 6 to 7:30.
Yeah, with networking beforehand for a half hour or so, and even networking sometimes afterwards for a little while.
Well, actually,
Well,
networking beforehand, right?
Yep, yeah, before and after.
Well worth it. The meetings are fantastic.
Right.
Now we have
right.
a
Bring
couple
your own
more-
drink, right? That's it.
Yeah, I have my
But
water.
yeah, as Ken was saying, the June meeting in June 8th is the only in-person PDM that we have. It's actually an installation of the officers for next year, but it is something that we do open it up to the members, not just necessarily the new board that would be taking over, but if you want to attend, it is heavily subsidized and it's at the yacht club, but you do have to register and we have to make arrangements to host you as well. So if you want to meet us in person, that may be a great opportunity to get together.
And I think all the presidents would say we need volunteers. If you want to be a board member for Massachusetts Minuteman, Western Mass, New Haven, Northern New England, depending on where you're located, if whatever suits your fancy, all the presidents would agree. We need volunteers to join. It's a lot of fun. You're running a nonprofit corporation with us, and it's a lot of fun. So get in touch with any of us, and we will get you in touch with the right people. So that's cool. There's a couple more presidents I did want to say hello to. Paul Moriarty from Northern New England. I think you're out there. I don't know if you're unmuted. I'll give you a few seconds. Paul, you still out there? All right. And Olivia from New Haven.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. That could be Paul.
Hello.
Hello, Paul. Are
So-
you back?
So, yeah.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
When you go out so far, it takes a while to come back. Hello, all. And I really appreciate these PDMs, these mixed meetings. I think they're wonderful. From a Northern New England standpoint, we're scheduling classes for the CPIM, CSCP, and a CLTD class. The CLTD class I'm trying to schedule will begin March 19th on Saturdays. It's a Saturday course. Okay, run 6 hours on a Saturday, and it'll run through April 23rd. So we also expanding our instructor base up in Vermont. Recently added an instructor qualified for CPAM and CSCP. So a lot of good things happening. And to your point about board volunteering, sometimes people drop off, they retire. So you have to scramble to fill those positions. And right now, I think all of the boards are looking for help. Individuals can't do everything by themselves. So I encourage people to join ASCM, their local chapter, their ASQ local chapter, and get involved. One last thing, I'm sorry on our talking jag tonight there. John, you mentioned about the PMP or project management. Some of the community colleges are offering a low-cost alternative to getting the requisite number of hours to obtain a PMP certification. Northern Essex Community College is one of them. They will be starting up in a few weeks with their fundamentals. So just something to keep in mind. Look at the community colleges, also get involved in PMI. PMI New Hampshire's got a couple ones going on too.
Excellent.
I'm off my soapbox there, Ken.
Love
you can,
it, Paul.
You can mute me now.
Oh, no, we wouldn't do that. You're awesome. So Paul is another legend in the industry, and we love collaborating with all these different chapters and doing this virtually. It's definitely the wave of the future. So this is great stuff. There'll be quality events, and you're going to love them all.
Was there another president you wanted to introduce, Ken?
Olivia is acting on behalf of New Haven, so I'm going to let her jump in. Go ahead, Olivia.
Hello, everyone. Oh, got my voice real fast. Um, as Ken kind of said, we are doing all of our PDMs as a joint, which is great opportunity for especially the college students to have everyone in one space. You know, when you're in college, you tend to not always go as close to home. Sometimes you are, but you, for example, if you're a Quinnipiac student, you might want to go to Massachusetts after graduation, vice versa. So it gives you kind of an opportunity to talk to people who have years experience, but at the same point are in different states where you might have not gotten that networking opportunity previously or pre-COVID. Definitely come to the PDMs. They are all virtual. We are doing the rest of this year together, next year together as well. Hopefully there's one thing in person. We're still working on, but lots of fun stuff. And yeah, what Ken said. So I'm just really here along to reiterate it, and I'll talk more when I talk later.
Love it. Love it. Yes, you're one of the featured speakers. And I don't know if we have Larry Spinello on the line. Larry, you're representing ASQ. If you're out there, I didn't see that you logged in. So
I didn't see him here.
Okay. So that's great. So I think I covered all the chapters and everyone. And one key thing I would mention that is towards the end, I'm going to put a link in the chat window for the survey and a certificate to show that you attended. And it'll also save it for your CEU hours if you're certifying or recertifying. So I will put that link in the chat window for Zoom. You must save it before you close the Zoom window. Because once you close that Zoom window at the end of the meeting, the link and everything's gone. So when I put it there towards the end, just save the link so you have the certificate. You can prove you went, especially if a professor asks. And all will be well. And I did want to say thanks to Keith Poirier. I think he's on the line. Keith from UML. Thank you for having so many students come from your class.
Oh, you got it, Ken. This is our class night, so it was a great opportunity to sync up.
Awesome.
Awesome. I don't know how many other professors or teachers are out there, but I thank you all. You know, your students will love this.
I know myself and Yan are on the call too as professors. So
Awesome.
shout out to Yan.
Love it.
So
Hi,
if you
Yan.
if you have nothing more to share, Ken,
I'm going to stop sharing.
I'm going to move on to our guest speaker. But before I do, I want to thank Mark, Paul, and Olivia, as well as you, Ken, for sharing all that valuable information. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
On our agenda this evening, you guys are in for a very big treat. Our keynote speaker this evening is Michelle Lawrence, and she is currently the site manager, MRO, supply chain at Pfizer Incorporated in Andover, Mass. And Michelle is going to share with you on foundations of careers and certifications, as well as the value of internships. Michelle, I hope you're still there and we're able to hang in with us and you are ready to share.
I am ready to share. Thank you all so much and welcome, students. I'm always happy for the opportunity to speak with you. I have maybe a few tips for you to consider, you know, on your journey to professional positions. We are here as a group. One of our charters is to mentor the next wave of professionals coming in. So sit back, relax, pay attention, and just always keep in mind that we are all here to help you. We are all here to answer your questions. We're here to help you navigate the professional world that you'll all be entering into very, very soon. And some of you may already be there. I want to start by, and I generally start this talk when I have the opportunity to speak with students, to keep your options open. Don't get tunnel vision. And I'm speaking here from experience. My first career, the career that I was 100% sure was for me, I started as a nun in a convent. That didn't work out so well, folks. Apparently, I did not have that calling, but I did. And when I followed that path, I had tunnel vision. I did not ever look for, plan B. And that was a little bit of a problem. And I really want to stress there are so many aspects of supply chain and operations. Keep your eyes and mind open to what is out there. It may not be something that you think you want to do right now, or you may not have even considered it, but it could be the path for you. So just always keep your eyes open, play to your strengths, listen to other people, listen to professionals who've taken the road before you, and see where destiny leads you on that. I, after failed as a nun, did not really know what to do. And I'm going to tell you that Apex played a huge role in helping me kind of carve out a career. I am in the winter of my career, folks. Actually, I am post-winter in my career. And it's been a stellar career. And I will tell you that my certifications and my education is what got me there. And I'll go into that a little more later when I get to the certifications. But I want you to be aware that as you enter the field, as you enter the workforce, you'll have your degrees, and that is wonderful. And congratulations for everybody who fulfills that obligation and that commitment to getting your bachelor's degree. But the certifications are what is going to help you. Those are the letters that you get to put after your name, and I'll explain to you how that has helped me and how it has helped a myriad of other people in the job search area. If you have an opportunity, and I would say seek it out if you can, to participate as an intern at a company, I will tell you, jump on it. Take that opportunity as soon as you possibly can. But here's the deal. At Pfizer, we see a lot of interns. There's a lot of interns there. And we have different types. There's the type that takes their little cubicle, and they sit in the corner, and they put on headphones, and you hear from them again. And then there are the ones that really understand what an internship is. This is an opportunity for free education. This is an opportunity to learn from the best. And those people, those folks who embrace that, who recognize it for what it is, who take advantage of what is offered to them, are the ones who come out on top. I always talk about two young ladies at Pfizer. This happened several years ago, but the story is kind of legendary. We see a lot of interns at Pfizer, but two girls, Jenny and Sophia. Two girls, they shared a cubicle. They put a banner up over their cubicle that said, "Looking for work, no job too big, no job too small." And during the tour, one of the higher up people in Pfizer said, "Can they do that? Put that banner up?" And it's like, I don't know, I guess. But they advertised that they were available, and those girls got all kinds of work. Now, some of it was not pleasant work. Some of it was really hard work. Some of it was really crappy work. But they did it. They embraced every opportunity they had. And after every opportunity, they produced a handwritten thank you note, not an email, not a cookie cutter note, a note that pointed out one thing they learned on that assignment, whether it was cleaning out a lab, whether it was working with the water system, whatever it was, they found something of value in what they did. And they thanked the person who made that opportunity available to them. And that went on for a while. And it got to the point where everybody knew, well, if you need something done, just go see Jenny and Sophie. You know, they know how to do this stuff. And they never complain, and they always participate, and they're always enthusiastic, and they're very thorough, and also they're very nice people. So they did that. At the end of the internships, they have a cake. They have a little see ya, kids. Good luck. Best wishes. Thanks for coming. All of that. But on this particular occasion, Jenny and Sophie were offered jobs. They were offered really good jobs at Pfizer, which is not an easy company to get into, by the way, because they were so outstanding. Did they know everything? No. Did they have all of the qualifications for those jobs? No, they didn't. But you know what? They had commitment. They had enthusiasm, and they were not afraid to work. And I'm telling you, if you have an opportunity for an internship, take it, but make it work for you. Take every advantage of it and give back. And you never know where that's going to lead. Those are not the first people since I've been there. I've seen a couple of other interns hired who had very similar attitudes, who were there to work, who were there to learn, and it worked out for them. And I'm telling you, don't just look for something to put on your resume. Look for the opportunity, the golden opportunity to learn at the hands of the professionals. So please keep that in mind if you pursue an internship. The other thing I want to talk about is certifications. Now, people tease me all the time about certifications. They call me a certification junkie, and maybe I am. But I will tell you the doors it's opened for me. I will tell you what it has done for my career, which has been incredible. I am a CPIM, a CSAP, a CSCP, a PMP, and I'm a Six Sigma Black Belt. When my profile comes up in any kind of a search engine, anything that somebody is looking for pretty much brings me up. I'm pretty much in the mix because I've covered so much ground. I to this day, and I am 72 years old, to this day, I still get hits. I get hits. We're interested in you. Are you interested? You're looking for work. Would you like to have a conversation with us about an opportunity that we have? This happens to me every single week. And it's the certifications that have led to my being noticed. So I'm telling you, do not underestimate, number one, the distinction you have by having those letters after your name, and also the knowledge that you bring to the table having pursued those certifications. APICS CPIM is the foundation of everything. That is the thing that saved me from, and I don't mean to be sacrilegious here, but saved me from just praying for an answer to working for an answer. And it gave me the foundation of my entire career, CPIM. It started at Digital Equipment Corporation, and it has led me all the way to Pfizer. So I strongly recommend, especially while you're students, while you already know how to study, while you already don't panic because of a test, now is the time to pursue those opportunities, to pursue those certifications when you're young, when you're sharp, when you're used to the rigors of studying and exam taking. So I highly recommend that. I think it'll pay off enormously down the road. And I think that, it'll distinguish you from other people in the mix when you're out searching for a job. I heard earlier when someone was speaking that Niraj may be teaching the PMP course. I'm going to tell you right now, sign up for it now. Sign up, sign up, sign up. When I was at Microline Surgical, several of us wanted to take the PMI exam. We felt that this was probably a very good thing to take, and it is. Project management is a life skill, in my opinion. 3 people took it at Northeastern, and I'm not knocking their program, but took it at Northeastern. I took it with Niraj on subsequent Saturdays It was offered through, I think, the Boston chapter at the time. And I passed that exam. You know, it's a hefty exam. I passed that exam with distinction, first pass. It took 2 years for my colleagues to finish and pass the exam. Actually, one of them has never passed the exam all these years later. But the PMP course that I took with Niraj was so thorough. He was such a good instructor that I passed, no sweat. So if you have the opportunity to take that, I would not pass that up. I want to wrap up. I don't want to take too much time. I want to wrap up and tell you that we all here are to be your mentors. All of us here are invested in the industry, and we really want to nurture the next wave of leaders. And that's you. That is you. That is all of you out there who are entering into this world, whether it be supply chain, which has its challenges right now, or operations, or anything in this field, in this industry that we all love. We are here to help you. If you need a navigator, you can call us. You can email us. You can come to our PDMs and network with us. You join this organization. It is free for you as students. And if you have an opportunity, if you have a little bit of time, serve on the board and get a real feel for what it's like to be part of an actual corporation, and see what you can do to help. We are always looking for fresh, young ideas, and we are all here, all of us are here to help you on your journey to professional. So let us know where you are. I wish you all the very best of luck, and I thank you all for giving me this chance to share with you this evening.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. That
welcome.
was excellent.
Yeah,
You're
Karen.
welcome.
Any questions? I think, especially an opportunity to participate, even if we just have a 1 or 2 minute interlude here. Any questions for our celebrated, master certified student for life, Michelle Lawrence? So as she was talking about, I think all the certifications that she has obtained, right? So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Joseph Young was asking a question, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, if you're someone who hasn't really been able to get like an internship, really, like what kind of advice would you give to someone like that?
I would say, are you a student or are you working?
I'm a student.
You're a student. I would go to your guidance counselor and ask if there's a place where you can volunteer. Perhaps you won't get into, a Raytheon or a Pfizer or a Moderna. Maybe you won't be able to capture one of those internships. But see if there are volunteer opportunities for you. And you could start here. You could start with Apex. Perhaps you could do something there on a volunteer basis that would give you some experience on how to, run something or be a part of something and contribute to something that is going to, benefit you down the road. The experience would be helpful to you. But if you cannot get an internship, then look for a volunteer position somewhere that would enhance your ability, would enhance your resume.
Hello, this is Brad Seelan from Vanderbilt Global Services. I have some advice for this young person. It's not always easy to get internships with the larger companies, but there are local manufacturers, small companies that may be willing to take on an intern, and it's possible that you can create a position for yourself there. I've seen my daughter do that. It was difficult to find a corporate internship, but locally there was an organization that was willing to take her into a finance position. So I recommend that you explore with local manufacturing. There are needs for supply, and everyone wants to start to train people as early as possible. Thank you.
Good
Good
advice.
question, Joe. What type of internship are you looking for?
Just like anything really. Just like, anything in business really. I was just curious.
Where are you located?
I'm in Lowell, Massachusetts, and also Shrewsbury.
Awesome. Hey, join the where you're local to here. Do the Massachusetts Minuteman, ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman LinkedIn. People are posting stuff all the time there. And in fact, I'll find the link and put it in chat. But and when summer comes, before May, just send me your resume, because we might have some openings at Excelis Technologies. I'm not sure, but never hurts.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Same here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Good night. Sorry that my camera's not working. I know that Amazon has a lot of internships open for the summer. So check it out. If you find something that catches your eye, let's connect on LinkedIn, and then I can give a referral from networking. So
Great, thank you.
What I would recommend is, Joseph and all the students as well, just make sure that, if you are not on LinkedIn, be on LinkedIn. That's very important.
Yep.
And secondly, try to see if you can network and connect with the speakers here today, that you all know their names from the presentations. Try to connect with them. And, as Ken was saying, we'll post the LinkedIn group as well, ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman LinkedIn group. You may want to join that group. That would be another way to get networked with the individuals here, with the leaders. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Before our timing gets too far out of whack, I think it's time to start our portion of the evening where you get to meet all of our speakers that were listed in your registration form. And tonight we're going to talk about life in the operations management profession by company. And we're going to start with Ryan Hurd, the managing consultant recruiter at Michael Page International. She's going to talk with us about preparing for your first interview and potential job. Welcome, Ryan.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Karen, for the introduction. Great to see everyone here tonight. It is a pleasure to be here. This is actually the second time that I'll be a speaker at this event, and it's just such an incredible opportunity for college students and young professionals to learn about the job market, supply chain, operations, industry, and really what to expect when joining the workforce. So as a little bit of background on myself to kick off, so I was a 2016 graduate from Chapman University in California. I actually went to into an executive management job with Target, which was a very unique job post-grad and gave me quite the appreciation for retail workers. And then I actually moved back to Boston, which is where I live now, and joined Michael Page. We're a global recruitment firm. And as Karen mentioned, I'm a managing consultant with the business. I've been here for about 3.5 years now, which is wild. But I specialize in recruiting industrial engineering and manufacturing.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, she cut off.
And so I recruit for all levels from junior to mid-level, all the way up to more executive level positions. And so today I'm going to cover what we talked about for preparing for your first interview and also your potential job. So it was mentioned earlier, but literally the first step you got to take is making sure that your LinkedIn is active. It's updated. So making sure that it looks clean, appealing, and that it's very informative of the relevant experience to what you're looking to target in your career. And also be sure to open your settings to open to work. That's an a literal setting that you can put on your LinkedIn, and that attracts recruiters like myself or employers to your profile because it shows that you're actively looking for an opportunity. You can also be super specific with that too. So you can adjust your settings about exactly what type of job you're really looking for, from title to location. And I think there's some other settings where you can really kind of drill down, but that also helps specify. So LinkedIn is always number one. Get yourself online, add a professional photo. People do like to have, a picture there that they can reference. And then comes the resume. So this is a very important part of applying for jobs and getting yourself out there. So with a resume, my biggest advice for this is being very clear and concise with your formatting. So, this is typically more for when I was recruiting in marketing, but you don't need to add a picture or really any fluff. Just stick to one. Typically, I say use Calibri, honestly, for your type. It's just very easy to read. Calibri 10 is what I always recommend. And you want to have your education at the top, especially if you're a new grad. This just shows the most relevant experience that you have. So I always recommend having your education right at the top of the page. And then along with your technical skill set, certifications, as Michelle went over, just so incredibly important. I can't tell you how often my clients require certifications. If you don't have it, you don't get the interview. Right now, I'm working with a client of mine actually that's in the automotive industry, and we've been conducting a search for a program manager job, and they're looking for someone with at least 10 years of experience with a PMP certification, and they refuse to interview anyone who doesn't have that certification. So if you have certifications, put that on your resume. It's extremely attractive to employers and certain that are looking for certain professionals. Add in any relevant internships that you've had, co-ops, or even full-time positions. If you've had any during your undergrad, it's just great to have all of that experience there, but make sure it's relevant. If you had, a retail job and you were trying that maybe wasn't relevant to what you're looking to go into, you don't have to put that on there. You want to keep it concise to what you're targeting in your search. And also make sure that your resume doesn't read like a job description. That's one of my biggest advice just in terms of creating your resume. It should read as a bulleted list of accomplishments, unique responsibilities that you've had, or technical knowledge. The biggest thing is making sure that you make yourself stand out from the crowd. If it reads like a job description, that could be anyone. But you want to make sure that you're really highlighting the experience that you've worked so hard to get. And also, if you would like to as well, if you're applying for a more kind of niche position, you can always tailor your resume as well to make sure that you're appealing to a certain employer, if that makes sense for you. And then next would come the interview. So an exciting part about, I guess, kind of a light in all of the darkness of the pandemic is that so many employers have gone virtual and have really mastered this at this point. So a lot of interviews are now very flexible to be virtual. And typically what I'm seeing is the first round, maybe second round will be virtual, and then they'll have you come on site to tour the facility. But virtual interviews have similarities to
Ryan, you gotta
for all
give your,
interviews. Oh, yep.
you back?
Oh, did I cut out?
Yeah, just for a second. It sounded like the internet cut out.
Just for
okay.
a few sentences, I guess, a couple of sentences. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna start at for all interviews, what's important to do is always put research into the company. Look at their website, look up articles online, check out their LinkedIn. They will ask you what you know about the business and why you're interested in the business. And if you don't have an answer, that can be tough for, actually understanding why you want them. And then research the people that you'll be interviewing with on LinkedIn. That way you can take a look at their profile, get to know their background and their experience, and be able to ask them questions about themselves and learn, you know, why they joined the business, what they like about it, and get to connect with them on that level. Make sure you review the job description prior to your interview as well. You'll want to be able to address the key points from the job description and how your skill set matches that, or what you can bring to the table from, you know, exactly what they're telling you, what they're looking for. I would also prepare questions in case there's time. Sometimes there's not, especially if it's a phone screen, those can be a little bit more concise. So, but if you do have time for questions, you want to be prepared with at least, you know, 2 or 3, at least in the initial phone screens or virtual interviews. And then, so for video interviews, I'll skip to this just because they're so prevalent these days. I haven't had an interview process in the past 2 years that hasn't had some sort of virtual aspect on that, whether that's via Teams, Zoom, Google Hangout. I always recommend doing a trial run prior to your interview to make sure that it actually works. Sometimes you don't have a Zoom account and then it can take a little bit to load it on your browser or something like that. So prepping prior to the interview will always help things go smoothly at the start. Make sure your Wi-Fi works. Mine glitched out a little bit, so maybe I got to look into that, but try to make sure that, you know, everything has full connection so that doesn't happen. And also I discussed this just right at the beginning, and it's kind of been a theme here, which is great because it's so important. But if you're scheduled for a video interview, make sure that your camera's on. It's just so incredibly important. There's a reason that they do that, and that's to make a personal connection with you. If they wanted to do a phone interview, they absolutely would. But you know, if they want video, they're not just looking for audio. And then make sure you're in a quiet place without distractions. These next few suggestions I have seem so obvious, but you'd be surprised how many even senior executives I work with have joined a video interview with dirty clothes in the background or just kind of a mess. And it's pretty surprising that this stuff happens, but it does. So if you can't be in a tidy space or a clean area, you know, put a background on your screen, something that's, you know, professional, maybe not like a beach scene, but like they have all of these.
Ryan, you had another blip.
An on-site interview, but all of a sudden you have this whole opportunity to be looking at the job description and speaking to that in real time. And then for an on-site interview, I would say always arrive at least 5 to 10 minutes ahead of time. Look at, especially because most of us are in the Boston area, look at the traffic situation a day before. You can do that on Google so that you know how much time to leave. But if you show up late for an interview, oftentimes, at least with the clients I work with, it never goes well. It's just not a great look. So making sure that you arrive ahead of time is very important. Taking the necessary COVID precautions, also extremely relevant.
Ryan, if you see my head shaking no, that's when you're cutting out.
Can you see me?
Okay, so when you see my head shaking no, that means you're cutting out.
We can see you now.
I see you, but she's frozen again.
She's frozen again.
Oh, it must be cold out there in Boston. What?
Yeah, I guess so. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, hopefully.
I think it's
I'm
just the
almost
internet. I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi or
I know
hotspot.
I actually had Xfinity at my apartment on Saturday and they supposedly fixed all of this. So anyway, I'm almost done. But I guess the last thing, I'll just wrap it up, is just saying that the job market is so incredibly hot right now. I have never been more busy with so many jobs. The unemployment rate is currently at 3.9%, which is the lowest it's been before the pandemic. That means everyone is employed. And so employers are looking for great young professionals, new grads like yourself, to join this, to join their business. So, you know, it's a great time to have multiple job options and really find what's going to be right for you. And again, I mean, I'm a recruitment consultant. I'm in this business. So please add me on LinkedIn. I'm constantly posting jobs that I'm working on and looking for candidates. So yeah, I hope that we can connect. And again, thank you all so much for attending and having your cameras on. It's great to network and get to know you all. So thank you.
This is George Kelly. We have a question from one of my students.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And if you,
Yeah.
we have
Wait.
a couple of minutes for Q&A now.
Perfect. Who can I help out?
Can you take a question?
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Come on up, Wyndon. We have 26 people in the classroom here listening in on you.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Hi, my name is Winnie. Hi, I am very used to like one-on-one interviews, but when it comes to like group interviews, I tend to like get very, I don't know, it's not my forte. And I think it's especially since like one person talks and then I interrupt, or I don't know when I'm supposed to talk. And then another time was when they all took my ideas, and then now when it's time to me, I'm like, oh no, what do I say?
Sure. Yeah. So is your question just about what to say, or what is your question?
How do I become stronger in group interviews and stand out amongst my competitors?
Yeah, that's honestly a great question. And I would say it's kind of all about practice. So, you know, accepting as many interviews that come up is really important and exciting. And that gets you into more of these opportunities where you can have these experiences that are maybe panel style interviews, which I was just talking with a candidate yesterday about this, have become more common. And so I think, you know, practice makes perfect for sure. And also a big thing that you can work on and try to practice just in different situations is taking the time to really, you know, listen, absorb the question, and then answer. If you're in a panel style interview, those can be a little overwhelming and nerve-wracking. But if you let whoever the panelist is ask the question and not try to jump on it, they will respect you taking the time to internalize it and think about it, and then be able to answer the question with an educated answer. So I would say practice with those two things. You know, don't rush it. But I would say it's, you know, you're not alone in being a little bit nervous about panel style interviews. They can be intimidating, but I would say honestly that practice kind of makes perfect.
By group interviews, I don't mean like a lot of interviewees against me solo. I mean like me against another candidate and like many other people competing with me for the job.
Okay, sure, got it. That makes sense too. Yeah, that I think, especially for new grads, does tend to be common. And I would also just kind of recommend the same advice for that too. You know, just continuing to open yourself up to those kinds of interviews and involving yourself in those kinds of interviews. And then again, just, you know, not kind of rushing the process or feeling like you have to be the one to always speak. I'm okay.
You're back.
You're back.
And I'm back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Should we move on to the next?
Sure.
Thank you.
Khalil?
Next, please.
Hi, Ryan. Yeah, sometimes, especially I'm a student actually. So, and I have my friends who already like graduate and they went for job interviews. But sometimes some of my friends, they say like the recruiter, they ask you some specific questions that are related to their jobs. And as a student, you still like, you know, still fresh. You don't know that much about, because what you study, it's not the same as what you get in the job. So
Right.
kind of like they found kind of like make it harder for the new students who are willing to get the opportunity to work for a company. So so my specific question, it's like, why pretty much they give those complicated questions sometimes, or how to deal with them?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's interesting. I feel like, at least the way that when I recruit, I take the time to look at my candidate's background, and especially if they're a new grad, understanding that maybe they don't have all of the professional experience that some of my, I don't know what's going on.
You're back.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just a
just
delayed
connected, but okay. I was going to say that, in terms of what you can do to respond to that, is just be as clear and transparent as possible about your experience. Like I mentioned, technical skills, certifications, co-ops that you've had. But in the end, the recruiter should have reviewed your profile, your resume, understand that you're a new grad or you're still in college, and that you might not have all of the professional skills that someone who is, a couple or more than that years into their career would have. So you can only do the best that you can do, and I guess hope that your recruiter would have reviewed your profile.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, any other
Hi.
burning questions?
Yeah,
for
hi. I
Ryan?
had a question for Ryan. This is Tejas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Ryan. Any advice on how would you connect with a potential recruiter or a hiring manager? Like, I am not connected with the person, but as an icebreaker message, when I connect with the person, any advice on how do I go about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And something that I always recommend that people do is to send a message either to the recruiter or directly to the hiring manager. Always include a copy of your resume and just introduce yourself, what your maybe major is if you're just graduating, what you're looking for in a career. If you take a look at the careers page on the website, reference a specific job. You can say, I saw this opportunity in supply chain. I'm very interested in it. This is the relevant experience that I have. When would you be available for a conversation, or are you open to chat? So just providing very specific references in terms of, introducing yourself and what you noticed in terms of a specific job at the company. I guess that would be more for hiring manager. And then for a recruiter like myself, just message me on LinkedIn. Say, hey, I'm a new grad looking for a job. This is what I'm interested in. And then we'll have, typically I do about 30-minute long initial interviews to learn a bit more about you. And then if I can find something that would be a match for you, or if I'm currently working on anything that would be a match, then I'll facilitate that interview process. But it's always a great idea to reach out, make yourself known. And that way I always notice that my candidates get more interviews.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. If there are no burning questions for Ryan, and of course at the end of the evening, all of our professionals will still be with us, and you can ask questions of them then. We'll move on to our next speaker, and that would be Olivia Atkins, material planner at data analyst at Sikorsky, and she will share with us what to expect as a young professional on the job. Transition from undergrad to young working professional who graduated rather recently.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
Karen.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. So yes, I graduated with my MBA during COVID, so very recently. And I started working at Sikorsky. A lot of the tips I was going to give tonight have already kind of been brought up. One thing you should always try to do is get those certifications. it helped me land my job at Lockheed Martin, and they straight up said that to me as soon as I was hired. They were like, you know Tableau. We're going to be implementing Tableau into things we do, and you could be useful because when your team decides to build their reports, you know how to do it. So those certifications, badges, Tableau, they're badges. Some are free, like Tableau is for anybody with a university email address, are very useful. It does take some work, sometimes some money, but you also are, when you're negotiating your contract and you have certifications, get a higher pay amount than someone who does not have them. And it gives you information that you might have not received in class. Another thing I would say is when you go in for a job, be very open-minded. Do not think that, oh, I signed up for this job, this is what's going to be, because you will learn a lot more being the person who is able to sit on any team that you get thrown on, or if someone says, hey, we have this project going on, is there any volunteers to get involved with it? And you're the one to raise your hand. That is just skills that you could then take and hone in on. And then down the road, you never know when you might use them, or the skills that you've learned will help you get another job later down the road. That is definitely one thing, being a young professional, I've taken into account very much. And now other departments know they can rely on me and know that I will do a good job. And then that also builds that network. When you have the more employees, whether it's in your current job or in a job you did 5 years ago, you never know. If this is the number one thing I could tell you all, you never know who knows who. And you never know, the person you were sitting next to will be the person that will either get you a job or keep you from a job. And your impression is whatever impression they have of you, good, bad, and different, is what can happen. And a story I'm going to tell you real fast of that is back when I was in undergrad, there was a student, I'd started a society on campus. There was a student who was involved. He was the vice president at the time. And one thing I started to notice, and he was in my classes, was he was a great human being. Very nice, always there for you. However, he never did his job. He was always out partying. He was never getting the task done. And I always had to pick up the slack because we had deadlines with the university, becoming a new organization. We had things we had to create for the students. And I was always doing his work. Well, he ended up, his term ended and we remained friends and everything was good. Well, little did he know, because he was a grade above me, and he still doesn't know till this day, that his senior year, he was applying for jobs. And I helped him write his resume and look over it, and he applied, but he didn't realize someone in a job he applied for knew me on LinkedIn. And they reached out to me on LinkedIn and they said, oh, we see you have a connection with blah, 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 and we see that you have a lot of things in common. What do you think of him? Well, now my name's on the line, because if I recommend him and he does a horrible job, now my reputation is tarnished and they're not going to trust the people in my connections or me. And I just said, he's a great human being. However, if I had to hire him, I would not. End up, he did not get the job. And he came back, he never knew it was me, but he ended up not getting that job. He got a different job and lived out, I don't want to say the rest of his life story, but lived out his life. And the thing is, you never know when the person, whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, ex, whatever, you always want to be in good terms with everyone, unless like there's no other way to live, because you never know when you might need that person or that person has a connection to someone else on something you're trying to get. Because it's very important in today's world, networking is key. That being said, I know we're kind of running on time, and a lot of things I was going to say got brought up. Does anyone have questions? I'll answer some questions if you want. Yes. Eric.
And hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi there.
Any
Can you hear me?
advice? Hi, I'm Eula. Any advice for people entering the supply chain? I can speak for myself. I'm coming from healthcare and I'm trying to get into supply chain. So how do you make that? How do you transition in? I wrote this, the exam, CSCP exam, a few years ago, right before pandemic, and I missed it by 2 points. So how do you make the connection into bridging that gap to say, okay, I was in healthcare, now I want to go into supply chain, but you're not that confident that you know the job very well. So how do you go about,
So I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Are you trying to go into supply chain within the healthcare field?
Well, I know there are supply chain parts of in healthcare. I could do that, but I was looking for the broader scope. I was looking for the bigger pharmacy.
No, because the reason I asked that, a good way to get involved, because you have those connections within the healthcare area already, is to connect with the people. I don't know if you worked at a hospital or where you worked, but connect with the supply chain people who worked there where you worked, because you already have that connection, that relationship, whether it's just hey, you worked here and I work here, and like you have that little bond already. So then you're easier to get a response back and talk about experiences, and they could help tell you more about the supply chain field. But then you take those connections, and those people have other connections. They don't just have connections in the supply chain world. And so then you take the skills that they have told you, or you might know, and they might say, okay, now you're trying to pivot from healthcare to here. I moved from, let's say, Sikorsky. I moved from Sikorsky into the healthcare supply chain. Let me tell you how they're different and what skills you might need. Another thing I would definitely do is to look at, getting your green belt, Six Sigma, some of these, I don't want to say minor, but broader certifications that no matter what supply chain route you go into will be a beneficial knowledge base for you, because then it doesn't pigeonhole, I don't want to say pigeonhole, but it doesn't like put you where you're making a decision right this moment into what career path you're going down. You have this, and you could relate it to whatever field, internship you get, whatever it might be. Because what happens a lot of times too, and the great thing with internships or other opportunities, is you get to do an internship for a little bit, and that can tell you right then and there if you really enjoy it or not. You might go into a supply chain internship in master scheduling thinking you're going to love it, and you hate everything about it. So now you at least know those skills if you have to do it as part of another job, but that's not the kind of certification you want to be getting. If that helps.
We have 2 more questions. We have Eric and Khalil.
Hi there. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Actually, my question is very similar to Eula's. I'm coming from, I've been doing about 10 years of blue collar labor work. I'm about to finish my degree at UMass in business management, and I've become more and more interested in supply chain management and logistics. More recently, I've been gaining some soft office skills, working part-time and learning a little bit of supply chain management, working at working retail. And coming from a much more blue collar background, looking to make that transfer into the corporate world, what would you say is an optimal strategy for I guess selling my transferable skills and changing from one source of one sort of occupation to the next.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did that, right? So I worked in sports for years. So there wasn't many supply chain. There was no supply chain. It's professional sports, right? So one thing I would definitely say is look at what you want to do within the supply chain field and kind of see what tool or what they're saying the skill base is that they want, and look at what the skill bases you have and say, how do these match? And then say, if there's, one great thing too is certain times when things are listed online as a company saying this is what you need, there's also software systems built into that, right? So SAP system, if you see something that you will need for a job that you don't have, that's a great time to say, before I go and apply for the job, I'm not learning this in class. Let me go Google that SAP's website. SAP has videos you can watch for an hour, 2 hours, and pick up some skills. When you're talking about other workforces going into supply chain, really just focus on capturing what you have done, whether it's the managing of people, projects, working with the different softwares. Make sure you list those softwares. I mean, making sure you even put in there, right? You said you worked in retail for some time. Putting on there that you had to order inventory, deal with your vendors, stocking, making sure things are coming in timely manner. Those are all supply chain things. And so just even those skills, even though it's a totally different industry, will show that you can do the supply chain stuff.
Thank you. I hope that answered your question, Eric.
It did. Thank you very much.
Good.
You're welcome.
And that Eula is satisfied as well.
Yes.
If he can, do you still have a question, Khalil?
Yes. So, yes, Olivia. Could the person still get jobs in a supply chain without having certificate, just the bachelor degree? Or
You can. You definitely can. For example, my current boss got into supply chain with just having a bachelor's. He just started going back to get his master's while he was working. He got a certification because he realized there was some knowledge missing. The only thing that are with certificates that benefit you is that there are things, because it's industry specific, that you might not get in the classroom that you will get out of it that will help you do your job better. And then the other benefit is long-term, right? So you've put all this money into your education, this continuous education. Yes, it helps you whether you do it now or once you start working. But if you spend, let's say, $1,000 on this certification with the learning materials and everything else, that could be a $5,000, $10,000 pay raise. So it is something you don't need at all going into job force. It is something to think about, because when people look at your resume versus other people's resumes, it is another thing that sets you apart, and you have more specific, toned in knowledge base that a lot of other people do not have, especially coming out of college, because they're not thinking about it. And you get a bigger salary. And one other little snippet about that is right now with COVID, there's a lot of people out of work. And that, with all these open positions, but a lot of people applying, you can be competing against people who have years of work experience, but their company closed down. So they're willing to take whatever position that's available, that's open somewhere else, that has similarities in pay range and everything else. You're competing against other people that have a lot more experience right now due to COVID. So this extra thing helps you beat out some of your candidates who are your same age, same experience, because a lot of you are just coming out of college and not thinking about any of those things.
Could I offer one piece of advice too? Highly neglected piece is in supply chain is a frontline supervisor. So any factory, like you mentioned, warehousing or things like that, you're going to get exposed to all the engineers, all the accountants, planners, schedulers, and you're going to develop these people skills that you wouldn't ever get by just taking a class or sitting at a desk. And it's the type of positions that gets you right into supply chain. Plus the other benefit too is any of the company's training classes, they may even pay for a certification once you're in the door. But it's a great path to get into supply chain or manufacturing and then work your way up from there.
Okay. I want to thank you all very much for covering that segment. And unfortunately, we're going to have to move on. We have Ken Glasser covering again for Emily Zhang. And Emily is with Discerner Pharmaceuticals as an associate director of supply planning. It's very unfortunate that she's traveling and we can't have her with us. But she wanted to talk to you about swiping right on employers and getting them to swipe right on you, developing your strategy for the marketplace. And I believe Ken has her slide deck that he wants to share.
Yep. I'm just going to this is going to be very, very short because she's not here. And I just wanted you to see this because it was a very, very popular slide setup. She was really a good speaker last time. She's traveling this time, so she couldn't make it. But I just wanted you to see, let's see, right here, just see the slides, take a quick screen print of them. But it basically says, it never hurts to see what's out there, set up smart filters so you don't waste time on jobs that don't fit what you're looking for. Curate your profiles and brand. And I think that sort of relates to what Ryan had said earlier about, you can also customize your resume to match what you're looking for. You're not lying, you're just customizing it to fit what they're looking for. Maybe it's a point you didn't put on there, but you're going to put it in as, matching that job that to keep your resume short, you customizing it to that job. Let's see, make sure you have a pipeline, don't get overwhelmed. You're not going to match with everybody, and that's okay. And that really is okay. And like Ryan and others have said, you want to practice. And Olivia, practice your interviews. The first few interviews I did, they probably didn't go well, but that was just good practice for me. And I probably wouldn't have wanted those jobs anyway. You're being evaluated relative to others. My friend Gino used to say, I'm a human, they're a human, I can do this job, and never let it psych you out. And it only takes one opportunity to have it happen. So these are questions to consider that she had on her slide. You prepare your story, practice it on your friends, your family, whoever. Who is your target market? The role, industry, geography, timing, pay range. Geography, depending on what you want, matters less now because of all the remote work that's out there. Timing, pay range, how does this role fit into your story? You're not only going to be telling who you're interviewing with why you're a good fit and it's good for the company, they may say, why is this good for you? And you want to have an answer for that. I'd love to do this because it fits these values in my life and I'm really looking forward to contributing in that particular area. So think of how it's going to fit you and the company when you're there talking. How does your resume reflect the above? And then how do you stack up as a product for what you're looking for? What do you do better than others? Think of your strengths. They'll probably ask you what your weaknesses are, so you want to be ready for that as well. What have you been able to deliver? Why is the skill experience relevant for this specific role? And remember, volunteering is another way to build up your skills, right? You may not have worked in supply chain directly. I remember when I first started years and years ago at Computer Vision, I wasn't in supply chain, but I dealt so much with them in the asset management role I was that it really intrigued me. And that's what got me sort of into supply chain. So, think about that. And then how will you validate that your profile is getting the right attention? So sort of like you're putting up something Is it getting the right attention? No, adjust it. Figure out what you're doing wrong. See a friend. Why is my profile not right? What's wrong with my resume? People will help you. Ryan will help you. She's really, really good at helping get your resume up to speed and getting you ready for, a position in a job. So that's all I had from Emily's point of view. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I don't know if I can answer them for Emily, but I could try. Good.
Any questions? And make sure you're all paying attention to the chat, because some of our professionals are adding more information in for you.
Love it.
Any
Well, thank you.
questions for Ken on the material he's covering for Emily? All right. Well, Ken is our next official speaker, and he is Global Sourcing Contracts Manager at Excelis Technologies. Ken, let's hear about lots of opportunities for advancement in supply chain.
Well, thank you, Karen. I feel like I was just here, deja vu. Well, just a couple of quick things here, and I also will be fast on my section here. So people have reiterated some of the things that you really need to get. I can tell you when I was at General Electric and I was leaving there to go somewhere, anywhere, I had certifications after my name. It was Ken Glasser, CPIM, CPM. I don't have as many certifications as Michelle. She probably gets a ton of hits because of that. But I will tell you that I had 5 offers at my job, and I picked Excelis Technologies, which at the time was Eaton Semiconductor, and 5 offers. And I did ask some of the people, what had you highlighted about it? And they had noticed that my name was my name, certification, certification. And they put all of those people's resumes off to the side first. So that's a neat way to get. It's sort of like if you're an accountant and you're a CPA. Well, it's your name, CPA, or you could be a CPM or a CPIM. So it highlights you above some of the other people, and then you still have to sell yourself, but at least it gets you into the, hey, let's look at this one pile. So it's really important for certifications, and it also helps your knowledge within the industry. I can tell you, after I got my certifications, I went back to the people at GE and I'm like, why do we do it this way? And they'd be like, yeah, I know, it's kind of old fashioned, blah, blah, blah. Well, you learn a lot, and people who hear you saying, why are we doing it this way? Could we try it this way or that way? Well, you learned that either in certification class, or you learned it from networking within your certification class, or through APICS. I can tell you, I would go to APICS meetings and ASCM meetings, and I would learn from other people. I'd be like, wow, I'm hitting this at work. What do you think? And they'd give me some ideas. It really helps your career path. So attending meetings like this doesn't hurt at all. And then I can tell you, will it be willing to start out doing really basic stuff? I started out as an expediter. I was chasing parts, and my boss would be like, get those 50 parts in. I don't care how you do it, blah, blah, blah. And it was such a basic job, but it's a great way to get started. And then one of the buyers went out sick and they said, boy, you've been chasing these parts. Would you want to buy them? And I'm like, sure. And I'm naturally a frugal person, so that really helped. And I was saving money, and then they said, we're going to make you a full-timer. So that was great. Moved into that. And then I was tired of doing transactional stuff over and over again. I'm like, there's got to be a better way than buying these same parts every 4 months. So I started putting stuff together and saying, boy, these 5 parts are the same supplier. It adds up to a good amount of spend. Maybe I can give them to them all at once and turn it into a contract. Saving money. Supplier loved getting the commitment. It was a win for us and a win for them. Problem solved. And they eventually said, boy, these contracts are great. I ended up, now I'm manager of contracts at Excelis. Love it. Do the stuff that no one else wants to do. I handle contracts. It's very detailed. People are like, boy, you like reading all those 50 pages, sentence for sentence through the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of a detailed person. That fits for the kind of person I am, right? I don't mind doing that. Software licensing and royalties. Nobody wanted to do that. It's complex. Well, I'm sort of somewhat technical, You could probably tell I'm nerdy, I'm technical, I'm okay with that. And they give me that kind of stuff. So I now do that. There's not many people, if anyone, that can do that at my place. I deal with some compliance issues and royalties and things like that. It's all funky niche stuff that when you put it together, it's like, boy, we need that guy. And it doesn't hurt to have, a lot of my friends were like, why do you want to do that? Why did you volunteer to do that? And I'm like, because no one else is, and they need it. Now my boss needs me for the stuff that I'm doing. He doesn't want to do it, and I don't blame him. Heck, even if I didn't want to do it, I do it. And it comes out well. So that's an important aspect of the thing. I mentioned this earlier, volunteering is very important way to get experience. Okay, if someone's not going to hire you, you can volunteer. I know someone who volunteered at a food pantry and ended up helping them with their supply chain to some extent. And they put that on their resume, and that did not hurt at all. Also, stay current. Like, I can tell you when I went to GE years ago, and I was one of the youngest people, and some of the other people there were a lot older, and a lot of them didn't want to stay current. As they used to hand out paper travel order cards. This is the stuff to purchase. One of the younger people said, why aren't we using computers? Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Well, that was very much a problem. And if you stay current, I do that every time there's a new system coming into my company. I'm like, I want to be on the pilot team. I want to learn. I want to know how it works, so that no matter what my age, I am the latest and greatest current stuff, whatever it takes. The other thing is stay engaged. Don't just throw the headphones on. You want to stay engaged, right? We had some younger people who were interns at our company. Their headphones were on all day long. They did their work, but they didn't really ask any questions. They didn't care if they moved up. Of course, we didn't hire those kind of people. There were others who asked questions. This is great. What else can I do? How do I move up? And those people did get hired, sort of what Michelle Lawrence was saying at the beginning. Again, networking, ASCM, APEX, that kind of stuff, these kind of meetings, network. The more people, like when Karen said, Seth Brown, I know who you are. Well, Seth Brown went to a couple of our meetings and now he's come to this one. People now know who Seth Brown is. So that's not a bad thing. Get yourself familiar. These are all many industry people that can get you hired. Get onto projects so you can work with other departments. Maybe you're going to end up dealing with some finance people and end up dealing with some engineering. And that doesn't hurt either. Get your name out to these other departments. You may see something you like even better in those departments. We have several people who went from supply chain purchasing into finance. Great. Some people came over from finance. You don't want to pigeon your hole into one department. It's not a good thing. And the last thing I'll mention is travel, opportunities for travel. Winter of 2015, 100 inches of snow in 1 month. They had me going to California. It was 86 degrees. It was a wonderful trip. Kentucky, St. Louis, New York, New Jersey, 7 trips to India, Bangalore, Chennai, Madurai. Great opportunities for travel. If you like to travel, supply chain is definitely opportunities. And there's multiple aspects of supply chain. There's logistics, contracts, there's planning. You can really, really enjoy non-boring. It's definitely not boring in supply chain. So that's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken. And
Excellent. Thank you, Ken.
if you guys haven't noticed yet, there is definitely a theme going on tonight. Were you about to say something, Mark?
No. I was about to endorse Ken on this traveling business, right? You have a lot of opportunities to travel when you are in supply chain operations, right? Especially when you work with vendors and suppliers. So Ken enjoys his travel to India, and I also travel abroad as well. So can't wait for the pandemic to be over and get on a plane, travel across the country and travel around the world. So, keep that in mind when you join, when you want to make a supply chain career, right? That's a fringe benefit of supply chain.
It is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, now we have Daisy Barreto. She is a strategic operations program manager at Amazon Robotics. And she'd like to talk with you this evening about taking the work out of networking. And if you will unmute, Daisy, we would love to hear. Oh, there you are. I see you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening again. I'm sorry that my camera is not working. One of those days. So there's two things that I want to separate on that thing. Taking the working out of networking as a two levels. The first one that I want to talk about is that taking the work out of networking. If you think about it, when you think about working something like that fatigues, that makes you tired, think about networking as a fun activity. For instance, I joined the ASCM. It's gonna be 2 years. In June, it literally flew by, and I have met amazing individuals. Like, I can tell that I'm making friends as I'm growing professionally and personally. So when you think about networking, I feel that a lot of people take that in a stressful way. In a way that's like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to people that I don't know. I need to put myself out. All those things are correct, but you keep in mind that you're connecting with people with similar interests than you. So for instance, you want to work for operations. How does it look like work for operation? You want to be a planner. Like, what is Olivia daily basis look like? So think about in the way that you have an opportunity to talk with someone and learn about something that you want to make as your career, as your life. So think about taking the work out of the word networking, and you're gonna see like how much fun it can be. On the other side, I want to say that the work as your job, you literally can take your job out of the network. Just to introduce myself a little bit more, I am an industrial engineer. I have a master's in project management. I have three certifications. I have a CAPM, which is Certified Association Project Manager, which is considered, it's from the PMI, which is the same organization that issues the PMP. But the CAPM is a certification that doesn't require you to have the 6 years of experience to be a PMP. So it really stand out of my, when I apply for jobs, because even though I didn't have proof of working with project for 6 years, I have a certification that it's as hard as the PMP. However, I don't need to prove that I have the work experience. So the CAPM is also really good if there are folks here they're looking into get in project management. I'm also a CSCP certified, and recently I got a certification in procurement with the ASCM. So that goes 3 plus my master's and my background. So regarding taking the work out of the people that I know, the position that I'm currently right now came from a connection, as a matter of fact, with the EPICS, the ASCM. So I am the living proof that you can make good connection and get jobs through your network. Of course, I put myself out. I reach out to the person just posted on the LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I'm actually interested in the position. Can we connect about it? And he was like, oh yeah, you sounds like a good fit. And because he knew me from the border, like, and he saw my what we have talked about, like the work that I was doing. So there was halfway through, because he knew me. It's not someone that just came out of the blue, right? So doing networking, it really helps, because you stand up among everyone, because you have a connection, you know the person at some level. So it really helps. And one thing that I want to mention, everyone did great job talking here about LinkedIn and making sure, of course, make sure you're on LinkedIn. That's the first. That's like, if you're looking to get a job nowadays, it's the place. That's no way around. Be intentional on your search. One thing that Emily put on the presentation, swipe right? You need to have an idea of where you want to go. So you can also reach out. You can add the person, you can add either the manager of the area you're applying for, the HR. Sometimes they're not going to accept you. So what you do, follow the person. So LinkedIn has a great feature that you can follow, and then you can see when they're opening positions on the group. And you know what? Be a human, and you can like it and you comment on the post. Be noted at some way for the person, like you keeping being consistent with that. At some point the person's like, oh, look at that Daisy, she likes it and then she comments thing, like, who the heck is this gal? And then it's like you catch the attention at some point. But don't be fake. People can sense fake. So be yourself. You like it something, just like it and make a comment. If the person did a podcast or they launched a paper you read about, you make a comment. Hey, I really like your paper. I really like your podcast. And that's how you start to, because it is harder to break the ice in this virtual reality that we are today. But if you keep being yourself, keep it real, low key, be polite, trust me, you can break the ceiling. And whatever can help, I'm on LinkedIn. I work for Amazon Robotics, and I'm also I used to be an international student, so I have faced a lot of interesting things about how hard it is to get a job as on the OPT, CPT, and so on. I don't know how many international students we have here, so I also have experience with those. So any questions? I want to make sure that Joe has time too. He is awesome, and you guys want to learn about it with him.
Don't oversell me. Don't oversell me.
Are there any questions for Daisy this evening, or we can hold them to the end so that we have time for Joe? Anything burning out there?
I just wanted to know a little bit of the robotics, just a little tidbit about it. What is Amazon Robotics? What do you do?
So we built the robots for the fulfillment centers. So some of them have robotics, others don't. So it really depends upon the size, location, etc. So there are a lot of cool videos on the YouTube that shows the amazing work that the robots do. It is really cool. I don't work specific on the engineer group. I work on the supply chain group.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Daisy. And I'm sure you'll be here at the end of the evening if we have more questions. Thank you, Eula. Next, I would like to introduce Joe Collins. He's the Director of Supply Chain Operations, Global Operations, Dell Technologies. And he's going to cover a very interesting topic, very important: understanding cross-functional responsibilities in supply chain. So thank you for being with us, Joe. The floor is yours.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Karen. Thank you. All can hear me? Yeah. Good. Thank you. So yeah, quick, maybe 90-second introduction, and just be warned, I might make myself sound more interesting than I really am. I've got a little more than 25 years experience in different parts of supply chain, mostly in high tech. But in all fairness, when I think about those 25 years, I've had the very good fortune of, I've worked for a startup, and I did that for about 3 years and got the company up and running and sold it. And then I worked for a company that was a little less than $10 million worth of revenue per year. And then I worked for a company that was about $1 billion of revenue per year. And then I went to a company that's 10 billion a year. And now I'm with Dell, which is 100 billion a year. So over the course of time, I've seen a few different corporate infrastructures. I've seen a few different markets. I've seen a few different things along the way. Another quick bit of it too is I've been with Dell Technologies through the acquisition of EMC, but effectively been in the same company now for a little more than 20 years. But in those 20 years, I was able to do 3 to 4 years in corporate finance, 3 to 4 years on a large corporate IT ERP implementation, another 6 or 7 years in materials management, and I now lead a team that does supply chain operations and analytics. So that's most interesting things there in a nutshell. I will share my screen. I've got a slide here just to keep me honest in terms of what I talk about here. So if folks can tell me that they can see the share come up, that would be great. There's one more. Okay, I have to hit. There we go. Yeah, can folks see the share? Hello? Am I sharing? Can you guys see the slide that I'm sharing? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, folks. Just want to make sure. All right. So the topic here is a little bit about the interdependencies and the cross-functional nature of supply chain organization. So the image to the left will, kind of shows this web of supply chain organizations. I stole the image off Google, so I don't know who to credit for it, but I'm going to consider it freeware. But the concept here, in my mind, if I think about with what I just described from my own experience, there are so many functions within supply chain, and there are so many dependencies within the functions. So I do believe supply chain, you can think of it as links in a chain where one thing leads to another, but organizationally, you have to be prepared to work cross-functionally in a number of ways. So I'm going to, let me see if I can get the, so when I think about the, if anybody's ever heard the kind of a quick summary view of supply chain, there's a plan, buy, make, and deliver. So if I just go down this set of activity here, within supply chain, there's a function of planning, and at a highest level, you might think of S&OP. You're working with executive partners, you're dealing with sales operations, you're dealing with finance, from an ES&OP standpoint. So you're largely looking at a corporate level forecasting activity. But additionally, within forecasting, you're also talking about consensus planning and master scheduling. So you're starting to think about different functions within forecasting organizations that are talking about how do I schedule shop floor activities? How do I schedule material? That work is critical because you're going to need a procurement organization that's going to know, hey, what do I need to buy? The procurement organization isn't going to be trying to forecast what they need to buy. They're going to be taking a schedule based on the forecasting and sales and operations planning activities. So from a planning function to a purchasing function, but in the purchasing function, don't think of it as transactional purchasing. You're managing relationships. You're dealing with component quality at times. You might have to get into some engineering discussions. So there are cross-functional discussions and responsibilities with the relationships here that are very exciting and interesting in the procurement side of things. It's not just, oh, I'm a buyer, let me put up a purchase order and make sure the material comes in. That is a key function, but there's other things within that relationship. And then from a procurement standpoint, you're really feeding the operations organization. So the manufacturing team, the direct labor team, those folks are going to have to bring the parts in and build product. I think of things more in hardware senses. You could make a case for supply chain and a services organization. I'm only talking in a hardware organization here. But as the work flows, there's a dependency in the operations team to get the materials that procurement buys. And then from within the operations team, there's interesting functions there that might be production control to think about what happens on the shop floor on a daily basis. What's the product quality? Who's measuring the quality and what are the key parts of that measurement? Maybe there's some new products coming down. You have to get ready for the line changeovers that you have to think about. So from an operations standpoint, I would say, don't just think of operations as direct manufacturing and direct labor. There's so many other functions. Daisy was talking a little bit about program management certifications. There's a lot of project management and program management activities that have to happen to keep things running. And then after you've built this product, whatever this might be, the real reason you're doing it, and people I work with have started quoting me on this at times, in some ways, the real reason you're doing this is to generate the accounts receivable. So many parts of the business are worrying about and managing what the offerings are, what the pricing strategy is, what the customer wants, what the market wants. They're dealing with a lot of that stuff. In supply chain, you can somewhat boil it down, and I might oversimplify. The supply chain function is in many ways to generate that accounts receivable. So after everything's done, you're going to start working through order fulfillment. What's the customer's expectation on a delivery date? Maybe you need to think about backlog management because you're running short on something. You have to prioritize a certain customer over somebody else. Maybe there's services partners. You're selling something that's a pretty intricate product and somebody else has to install it. How does that service partner install it? Maybe they need to do a site check on it. So within the fulfillment organization, it's not just boxing something and putting it on a truck. There's a lot of functions in fulfillment. So these things tops down here from plan, buy, make, deliver, these are heavily networked and dependent on each other. And then other functions within there, logistics is right there in the mainstream of activity. What's coming in, how much do we need to warehouse? Maybe there's something on a customer satisfaction that you need to think about reverse logistics. So from a logistics standpoint, it's not just putting on a truck. In all fairness, you guys, we all hear about the constraints and there's ocean issues. There's, airlines aren't running as much as they can or have in the past. So you might not have as much air freight capability. So there's sea, rail, road, air, there's lots of activities in logistics. And then logistics, quite often logistics are the face of the customer. We all are kind of hanging around the house and you might hear the doorbell ring and you see the Amazon person drop something off. That's logistics. And you bought something online. You never saw anybody. The only person you saw was the person that provided the logistics. So don't underestimate the interesting and efforts and the skills in logistics. There's functions within materials and inventory where you have to think about the lead time of these materials. You have to think about inventory control. I mentioned before I did 3 to 5 years in corporate finance, worrying about finance and valuation of inventory. So these things affect corporate financial statements. If you build up too much inventory, it weighs down your balance sheet and it slows down your cash flow. If you don't have enough inventory, you're obviously going to make some challenges on your backlog, but that delicate balance is key. My big point I want to make about some of these functions is if you think about metrics and measurements and KPIs, so there's a whole function within supply chain that's dealing with analytics. I have a team that I work with that a chunk of the team I work with are doing analytics, and you have conflicting, if you're doing this well for a company, you have conflicting measurements. You don't want to have too much inventory, but you also don't want to have not enough. So what's that right level? The only way you're going to optimize it is by points of friction or conflict, not conflict like fist fights, but you need to have something that shows a little bit of a challenge to it to optimize around. So sometimes the analytics teams are the teams that really end up playing a great support role to get a little bit of clarity on, you may not feel like you're driving the business in the analytics space, but you're helping a lot of people make some pretty key decisions based on, maybe we all hear some key interesting terms like predictive analytics or prescriptive analytics. People that can write code around the analytics around data that makes a prescriptive decision or something that predicts something that feeds right into forecasting. So some of these support organizations are going to be directly related to every other organization. And my point here, I guess, I know I went quickly through it. I'm trying to be mindful of time a bit. My point here, though, is that there are so many functions. This doesn't cover all the functions, but there are so many functions within supply chain operations. I mentioned before, I've done a startup. I worked in a hardwood manufacturing company. I've worked a lot in high tech. I've worked in high tech from a $20 million company to a $100 billion company. At times, you're going to get into a function that feels like you're in a defined function. And what I want to make mention to folks is whatever path you choose, there's no wrong answer, right? You're going to choose some interesting path. Hopefully you find something sexy that excites you and you're doing some cool stuff. But really, whatever you're doing, don't ever underestimate the value of the work in the seams. How is my procurement organization working with the operations team? How is the operations team working with fulfillment? Because that might affect some customer satisfaction issues. There's great value in the work we all do, but relationships, no matter how big or small a company is, the company is made up of people. Relationships will tell you how to make sure you get the right value in the seams. I would encourage folks, go for the career you want, find whatever's interesting. We've all heard the advice that your career bounces around. I just told you I've done finance and IT and materials and startups and blah, blah, blah. You assume all that mobility and be excited about it. Whatever you are doing, don't underestimate the value of the seams, the value in the seams with other organizations. And I can't not give you guys my own advice. We've heard great advice from a lot of folks. But at times I encourage university students, and some of the work I do with Dell, where I maintain a relationship with UMass Lowell. I want to encourage university students that just keep care at the forefront of your career. And if you just think about these things, folks here might say that they might not feel like they have a lot of experience to offer. I genuinely believe if you show somebody that you have curiosity and you have accountability, these two things are going to feed each other. I'm very curious. I'm old, fat, and lazy, and I'm still curious. I'm very curious about the things that my company does or the things I can do. And they're willing to let me take something on because I've exhibited accountability. So you can't be curious just to learn something. The reason a company pays you is to be accountable and deliver something. So a company will invest in your curiosity if you show you're accountable. So those are two great traits. And when you think about where you want to work or the nature of the organization you want to work in, make sure it's relevant, right? Everybody uses the expression of, whoever organizes the deck chairs on the Titanic. That was not an important role at any point in time when you think about what's going on. Find something that's relevant. Whatever you're doing, if it's relevant, you're in that value chain, not just the supply chain, but the value chain. And if you can apply your efforts in an area and be mindful of the economics, am I doing something that is increasing market opportunity for the company or decreasing current cost of existing market? Is it something that's good for the equity and the value of the company? Not everybody has to be a finance person or a salesperson, but you really do want to be seen as somebody that's an investor in the company so that they can invest in you. And this cycle can keep continuing, right? If you're in a good role, you can go explore a new curiosity and take on a new accountability. And you can find where you want to apply that based on what you see as being relevant and how you can help them economically. So there's I don't know how long I went. I don't have a timer. So anyway, hopefully that fits and it goes well. The last thing I would say, I talked a little bit about where I moved around and some roles I had and the good fortune I had. You want to find the work you want to do. You want to find you choose success. This is one of my expressions. Choose success and be willing to redefine what success means. Meaning, you may find that you want to work for a certain company, and that's great. Make sure you're thinking about what size is that company. Sometimes you want to work for a small company versus a large company. What industry is that company in? I did a lot of high tech. I wouldn't mind doing some more textiles. I have interests in furniture and fabrics for some reason. So maybe I would have wanted to do some more textiles. What industry do you want to be in? And then location wise, I work for a large multinational corporation based out of Austin, Texas. I don't get to walk the halls of corporate the way I used to. I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm a remote employee, and how do I make sure that I still keep myself of value? So knowing location, knowing the size of the company, knowing the industry, some of those things can feed your curiosity. So I fully understand where we need to buy bread and milk, but make sure that as you're making choices, because supply chain jobs are hot right now, if you're making some choices, take a look at what be selfish. Take a look at what it is that will feed your curiosity. It might be a different industry or a different size company. It might be in a different location. These are the things to be open to and be willing to redefine later, because these things mature over time. That's everything. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks all. So I don't know if there's questions, or Karen, if we have time for questions. Sorry.
If you can stop sharing your screen, Joe, that
Yep.
would be great.
Just showed up. Yep. Thank you.
Before we take any questions that we may have for you, let's formally end the meeting. For those of you who never expected to be on this call any later than 8 p.m., and anyone that wants to stay to continue to ask questions is more than welcome. Our professionals will not be hanging up until all of your questions are satisfied. And let me, at no further ado, take care of the awards that we have for this evening. There were several of you that kept your cameras on the whole time. I'm going to choose from you first. for one of our $25 gift certificates from Amazon. And I have your names on a piece of paper on my desk, and I'm not going to look down. I'm just going to point to one, and that's going to be the person. Sarah Burns. So make sure you stay on the call, Sarah, and make sure we have your contact information so we can get that to you. Now I'm going to choose from everyone who was on the screen this evening and participated as well by asking a question. And that person would be, gotta unfold the piece of paper, Tejas Mirashi. All right, so make sure we have your contact information. You might want to put it in the chat for Joe and Ken to take care of so that you get your awards for this evening. I'm very pleased to say that there were 23 of you out of the 75. Of course, the students, unfortunately, that were in a full classroom. We really appreciate that you were there. We appreciate that you participated. And unfortunately, I don't know your names, so you didn't end up in the hat. But thank you all so much for joining our meeting this evening and listening to our speakers. Thank you for your questions. And again, for all of those who would like to stay, we would appreciate that. There is also a survey, and you need to go into the chat to pick up on the survey. Quickly copy the survey link, because after we're finished with our Zoom call, you won't have an ability to get into the chat window. And the last thing that we would like you to know is that on Wednesday, October 12th, we will be having our second student night for networking, very similar to this, and we would welcome you all to come back and try out for more awards and listen to more professionals. So thank you very much again for attending, and I will open the floor now to any questions for any of our professionals.
Karen, I put my email address in there, so the two winners, please email me.
Okay, great.
And that would be great. So don't forget, two winners. If you don't email me, you don't get any money. And in addition to the survey, there's also a certificate link there as well. So if you want that, I know I get emails the next day saying, oh, what was that certificate link? So it's in here, right in the chat window. You got to copy it now because it'll disappear when the meeting's closed out. That's good. So I'm going to hit stop recording. So now no one will feel funny about asking questions. Okay, here we go.